Hey, good morning, everyone. Wednesday morning, 27th of May, 2020. This morning's short devotion is from Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, and I'll read it. Solomon writes, "Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of your life." Solomon was a wise man. He asked God for his wisdom, and God gave it to him. And so he wrote these words for the benefit of his own sons, as well as our benefit as well. Here's a thought that arises out of this. Dwelling on negative thoughts is like fertilizing weeds. Sounds crazy, but it's true. Let's look at it again. Dwelling on negative thoughts is like fertilizing weeds. When we think negatively, it's like us going out into our garden and fertilizing the weeds instead of cutting and pulling them out. Imagine if you and I were in the garden together, and I had the fertilizer can with me, and instead of fertilizing the flowers and the shrubs, I was fertilizing the weeds. Imagine what you'd say to me. Probably you'd say to me, "What on earth are you doing? That's the wackiest thing I've ever seen. Who could ever imagine somebody fertilizing weeds?" Well, we all fertilize weeds at some other stage in our life. We allow the fertilization of the weeds to take place in our minds out of negative thoughts. And so that's not very smart. Yet, we go out into the garden, we work, we slave, we sweat, and at the end of the day, all the weeds are out. Garden looks beautiful. You sit back and you enjoy the view and the scenery. But here's the thing, that's where it normally stops. Very rarely do we go out a few days later and check and see if the weeds are coming up again. Instead, we may notice that they're there and think, well, they're small enough, I'll deal with them when they get bigger. But life happens, and the weeds get bigger, and they start overtaking the shrubs, the roses, the other beautiful flowers in the garden. Much like our thoughts, we may notice that there are weeds in our mind, weeds that we keep on fertilizing. We know they're there, but I'm not going to pull them out. I'm going to try and ignore them. But you cannot ignore a weed. It grows. So, if you've been out in your mind garden fertilizing the weeds, pull the weeds out, deal with them, get rid of them, and instead of wasting precious fertilizer on weeds, rather fertilize the flowers. My dear friends, my challenge to you today is, when last did you go and do some gardening? Not physical gardening is also good. It's good to get outside, get some vitamin D on your skin. It's an essential vitamin. But when last did we do weeding of our minds? When last did we start observing what we are fertilizing? Is it the weeds or is it the flowers? May the Lord be with you. May He bless you. May He cause His face to shine upon you and be with you always. Amen.